Welcome to the event today, and I am Anand Srinivasan, and I work in EION Wireless, and this is my colleague and partner.
I'm JP Safar, and I work with represent NutriLink in Canada for the partnership with EION Wireless.
So we are going to present today on the solutions for Agile interoperability technology that EION is working along with NutriLink. It is a rapid way to achieve interoperability between agencies which are working together during emergency preparedness and also for emergency response. So today's presentation would be confined towards how do we really provide a fast response to a situation which is a mass casual incident situation. So when a mass casual incident happens, there are certain challenges that we need to address immediately. One thing that we find most often is there is not much time in order for doing a response. So this is a very interesting picture that portrays the reality. As you can see here, this is 2611, which is Mumbai incident. After the incident has happened, you can see the press has reached before the emergency guys. So this picture is actually wrong. Similarly, you can see here, after the incident, there are a couple of police officers, but no attendance at all. And similarly, there are more footwear here than the people. Similarly, in 9/11, as you can see, there is hardly any communication that is happening at the first response. And then people are all on their way to help each other, but there is not a coordinated effort that was there in order to address this particular situation. Now, with this given situation, we are asking this question, who is coordinating and interoperating with who? When a mass casual incident happens, there has to be a structure in place so that we would be able to address the situation. And then how are they communicating with each other? How do you bring a communication structure in place so that it can be rapidly, it can be installed, as well as the process can be put in place so the situation can be addressed. So what are the challenges that agencies really face when an MCI happens? Here is a very interesting chart that was given by US Center for Disease Control and Prevention. What they are saying is when an MCI happens, within the first half hour, almost 50% of the casualties happen. Like they are all coming to the emergency department. So that clearly states that not only should you be having the emergency preparedness in place, but the communication and the interoperability between the agencies should be immediate, and it is extremely important that it is in place. So if you see from the casualty point of view, the S graph is the one which happens, where most of the casualty happens when the response is late in terms of days, where you can really address them early on if you can respond in the minutes range. So one of the issues that we face is we do not know where the next one is going to happen, but at the same time we need to respond wherever it happens. So one of the things that needs to be put in place is a lot more preparation, and then something which we can use it when it happens immediately, so that all the agencies can interoperate. So the main problem that we need to solve here is all these agencies over here, how are they communicating with each other when an emergency situation MCI happens? And secondly, how are they going to interoperate with each other? Who is going to have the command and control for a particular situation? How is that command and control ceded to an agency and taken back by another agency? This particular problem is very, very important to solve from the emergency preparedness point of view. And within the next 10 minutes, me and Jim are going to show you some of the products and solutions that are available over there, which you can use in terms of addressing this emergency preparedness and emergency response. Obviously, nothing comes for free. If life were like that, you don't require a Visa card. So, from the budgetary challenge point of view, whenever we are talking about procurement for emergency response and preparedness, one of the problems that normally happens is who is going to pay for it? It is between two agencies, whose budget is it coming? So that needs to be resolved. The second one is when you are procuring multiple equipment like Cisco and Motorola, EION, do you require to provide different interfaces in each and every one of them, spend money in each and every silo in order for you to have an interoperability? Or you just have a cream at the top which is covering all of them, and that resolves the whole issue, and that is where DIP comes in. And can this communication interoperability equipment be used in normal course of events? You don't need to go and procure when an MCI happens. You use it as part of your IT, and then when the event happens, then you can jump in and then switch on. It becomes an MCI-enabled infrastructure. So that is a better way of doing the budgetary allocation rather than saying this is for my normal course of action and this is for my emergency. Because you never know when you are going to use it, and we never know whether it will even work or not. So it's very important that when the infrastructure is laid, it's used for a general purpose with the capability of MCI included in it. So when the situation happens, you just switch it on and it becomes MCI enabled. So now, how do you think different agencies interoperate seamlessly and quickly? Jim, what do you think?
So this is, thank you Anand for that question. I think as we, I can control it. So I think one of the important things that we need to realize when it comes to emergency response and interoperability and the concept of multiple agencies working together and responding to an agency, since 9/11 have often been focused on first responder response. So your police, fire, EMS, and ambulance services are the ones who have been advocating for this change and this requirement for everybody to interoperate and collaborate with each other. However, since for the last decade and even last 15 years or so, that concept of interoperability and the idea of agencies collaborating has been stuck at the radio level of communication elements. Everybody just thinks radio, radio, radio. Truth of the matter is, this has already been addressed for quite some time now. And many agencies and many organizations across the country, in Canada and even in the United States, have moved over to certain radio standards or have put in places where some of the radios can talk to each other and whatnot. But the reality of this situation is in any mass critical event or incident, you are not only relying upon your first responders during the emergency response and the recovery period, but you're actually relying on the entire community that is affected by the event itself. So our vision is really about having an entire community-wide network involving first responders, private sector, critical infrastructure assets, defense and security organizations that can, in an instant, immediately connect with one another, collaborate on a real-time basis by sharing either their legacy or next generation radio systems, sharing telephone communications within the same incident situation, so having some people on their radios talking to people on their phones, being able to receive video from different agencies in real time. So for example, when there was an event we were involved in Montreal with the Dawson shooting, well, with the Dawson shooting, you had a situation where the entire perimeter was closed off. You had two different, three law enforcement organizations. You had first responders, you had private security. Well, nobody had eyes and ears inside the school during the event. Whereas what we've been doing and what we've done in things like the Boston bombings and other activities like Superstorm Sandy in the US, we have enabled now these organizations to be able to take their video resources and then share them and collaborate with their community stakeholders so that when first responders are going into a scene, they're not going in blind anymore. They're going in with real-time information where seeing what is going on in that facility, seeing how they can respond and how they can better protect their people and the citizens that they're going in to rescue. And the other important thing we realized that after 9/11, when you looked at the problem of interoperability, is that it isn't something that can be done by going down one solution. Different agencies, different organizations are going to prefer different vendors, different type of communication tools, different type of solutions. So our idea was you had to come up with a way to enable the media and enable the communication resources of these host agencies so that whatever it is that they decide to go to use for their day-to-day operations can be converted and then integrated and shared with another agency during an emergency response. And this should be done in a way where you're not going to throw away your large capital investments in your legacy or next generation infrastructure, but you should actually be able to plug it in, leverage it, and actually extend the life cycle of that infrastructure that you've spent millions, and if not hundreds of millions on deploying. So this is one of the crucial pieces. And the other crucial piece that even we've seen, unfortunately, in the last 2 weeks is that you have to address the sovereignty of the host agency. The private sector does not want to be able to share or push out all kinds of information to the law enforcement agencies unless it is an ultimate necessity. Same thing between law enforcement agencies and sharing information with their firefighter and EMS partners. So what you share and how you share it is actually quite crucial. And this is the crucial piece of the network itself. And the ability to maintain that sovereignty is what makes the difference between the concept of the mutual interoperability, response, and preparedness network and everything else that's out there. So for example, this goes back to my message, which is, as you can see, you can have an agency. The agency has its own IT and communications infrastructure. All you need is really to enable your radio communications, your public address systems, your video systems, your telephone systems, or any type of sensory or IP type of solution you have, so that in the event of a mass casualty incident or in the event of a day-to-day emergency response with a specific partner, you can now actually communicate with that partner separately and apart from the general public, and in a way that you're receiving real-time information that is shortening that response time and that recovery time, which is actually, as Anand mentioned, it's really a question of minutes and seconds, and really seconds make the difference. We've had a lot of Canadian support in the last few years, so organizations like the Montreal Police Service, the Fire Service in Windsor, it's deployed for cross-border operations with the South. We did some work with the Canadian Forces a couple of years ago as well, and it's just ever growing. And the idea, again, is they all believed in the concept of enabling their media and then sharing it on an as-needed, as-authorized basis. So how does this really work? You have to be able to actually create a platform that allows you to secure all of that information, provide authenticity in order to assure the confidentiality of all the information and the authentication of all the information. And this is what we've done since 2006. So as you can see here, there's different devices. The idea is that the gateway devices are converting your communication infrastructure into IP, and then the integration is happening at the IP level. So a radio now can talk to a VHF radio, can talk to a UHF radio, and can talk to a cell phone, and can talk to somebody who's on his command center or wherever else it may be. It's completely device agnostic as well. So you can run it on an iPhone, an Android, Windows 7, Windows 8, all in the while maintaining that security of information.
I can see a suitcase here, so that shows some kind of portability.
Yeah, the portable, we call it the Operations Fusion Kit, was developed specifically for U.S. Special Forces and U.S. Marine Corps and the NATO Special Operation Forces as well. This is really a mobile command center in the size of a carry-on suitcase. You're able to have 4 different radio nets securely integrated with each other without having to change crypto, bridged with telephone and video communication live on the fly. So this has been a really big game changer for our global tier 1 response teams.
How much time do you think would be necessary to deploy this?
Oh, we do that. The entire system is up and running in less than 2 minutes. We did that in multiple live exercises with the Marine Corps and some of our Canadian Special Forces.
That's
So this image is actually a pretty comprehensive image of exactly what I was talking about. The idea is really to create this national or even North American emergency preparedness network, or what we like to call the IRAP, an interoperability response and preparedness platform, where you can have police agencies, fire, schools and universities, your hospitals, your transit organizations, your federal entities, your utility services, and different command vehicles, all with their current systems and current equipment, but at least enabled now to collaborate and communicate with each other in a seamless way and in real time. So this is actually one of our screenshots, and again, you can come and visit us at the EION booth, where we can show you live demos of our actual operational network. You can see some of our agencies in Canada and Boston and California and whatnot. So this is why the user interface is so easy to use. On the top left-hand corner, you've got your buddy list or your friend list, which is really everybody who decides to sit on the network and has made that commitment as an agency to enable their media for emergency response. On the bottom left-hand side, you have the different communication resources that are at your disposal and under your command and control. So this is where you can decide to enable your radio communications, telephone, CCTV. And as you see here, you have one incident window that's open with over 10 different locations or 10 different nodes that are communicating with each other. They're sharing real-time video, which is a target package. And then they're sharing mapping video and then a piece of data, such as a picture, identifying the target in itself. And this is, we can show you in a live environment.
So, Jim, just a quick one. How is the interface here working for the intercom? That's a very interesting one. You can just touch and...
Yeah, so the interface is all based on touchscreen or with your mouse on push-to-talk. So it operates like you would with conventional radio. Everything is push-to-talk based, so all you would do is you would click the intercom button, hold it, and now you're broadcasting to other operation centers. And then if you decide to use the TX, the red button, it transmits all. So let's say you had an incident like this where you had 5, 6 different operation centers, 2, 3 different radio nets that are within that incident window. If you use the intercom function, only the op centers will be hearing the voice communications and talking to each other. And if you use the transmit all, the TX button, well, now you're going to broadcast to all the field radios and the operation centers within that incident. And it's all drag and drop, so you can move assets from one window to another window in order to assure which information is being shared with the appropriate agencies at the right time.
Fantastic. Also, I can see that you can even seed the control to a UAV video.
Yes.
The various agencies can look at the same UAV using a wireless interface, and they can make important decisions.
Exactly. So the whole idea of before, where you had a UAV feed or even a certain piece of information that's in a closed, secure environment and couldn't be shared or pushed out with other trusted agencies, is out the window. So now, for example, these live UAV feeds, for example, in Afghanistan, was exactly that, which is what we did with NATO SOF, was you had a live drone in Afghanistan sending down the video feed to the forward deployed elements on the ground. That feed was then pushed back up to NSHQ.
Can you have your attention, please?
And then from NSHQ was pushed out.
The counterterrorism panel is about to start at 10 a.m. Please make your way to the Airbus conference stage. Thank you.
So yeah, so it's pushed out from that forward deployed element on the ground back to different locations across the US. And this is an event that Canadian Forces participated with us on in 2011. So last but not least, really our perspective, the way we look at this is we've been doing this since 2006. This is a proven technology implemented across the world with different tier 1 teams, all the way down to small municipalities like Stratford, Ontario, or even Trenton, New Jersey, and things like that. It's scalable. So you don't need to buy everything all at once. You could just decide to buy 2 or 3 pieces of equipment and decide to grow it within your own organization, creating that intraoperability. It's entirely controllable, so you are never being forced to do anything. There's no sensory overload. It's very intuitive and easy to use. And the most important thing is it's affordable. This is not a solution in the multi-millions of dollars for each agency. It's actually quite low cost. But as you all know, when it comes to communications and integration of communications, there's always the million-dollar question of mission-critical communications, and how does our solution properly work in the situation of a mass casualty event. So, Anand, can you talk to us a little bit more about how you assure that kind of communication?
Yeah, so thank you, Jim, that was great actually. What Jim explained was the cream which brings in the interoperability between communication devices which are present in various agencies. So, for example, RCMP might have its own communication infrastructure, and similarly, a hospital system might have its own infrastructure. What is important is this communication infrastructure that is there underlying, which is connecting people, because gyms can work at the top, but it is very important that this communication structure underneath is rugged and it works at all terrain, at all the places, and can be deployed very fast. And at the same time, it gives all the standards and certifications that are necessary for the agencies in order to operate. If you can see this graph, normally when early on, primitive days, the coordination was happening after the emergency preparedness people or emergency response people came into picture. But nowadays, most of the people have wireless communication established, and EION is in the forefront of providing rugged wireless solution for emergency response and emergency preparedness. So our tactical MIMO radio is works in full line of sight or non-line of sight. It's a military grade equipment, and in addition, it's made in Canada. And on top of it, it does support both point-to-point and point-to-multipoint deployment, and can go all the way up to 75 to 80 kilometer range. And in addition, it can also be a static solution or fixed access wireless, and it could be a mobile solution including managed. So we would be able to deploy this particular infrastructure over there very quickly. And if the interoperability solution is there already on top, then we are there right there in order to go, in order to handle various agencies, in order to communicate between themselves, so that the situation can be brought under control. Again, the first slide showed how critical it is in order to bring the situation under control within half hour, because almost 50% of the casualty is happening in the first half hour. Every minute matters there, and if the communication equipment is set up within the first couple of minutes, as Jim said 2 minutes, I wouldn't go 2, I might say 3. So if we could do in the first 5 minutes, probably we are there to coordinate between the hospitals, the paramedics, the RCMP, and all of them together in order to control the situation. Here are some of the features of the radio that I would want to share with you. Ours works all the way from 700 megahertz up to 6.1 gigahertz. It is very important in order to understand that for emergency preparedness, most of the frequencies are 4.4 gigahertz and 4.9 gigahertz. Ours support both of them. So we would be able to do change of frequency on the fly. On top of it, our data rates are up to 210 megabit per second for UDP and about 165 megabit per second for TCP, which means almost you can stream live video in order to control the situation and can actually get more information on what response is needed. So people are aware and they can bring in more help quickly. All the other good things over here, I don't want to go through one by one, but you are most welcome to come and visit us in our in our booth, and we would be more than happy to explain you our communication strategy and solutions along with the interoperability solutions. Where it is used at present, we are working with water security agencies, and the emergency services are being deployed today, where our communication, as you can see, is AES 256. It is completely encrypted. So any information that goes through the wireless link is fully protected with respect to encryption. And our crypto link feature here is the one which makes sure that all the agencies are communicating in completely secure fashion. Similarly, our solution, since the throughput is very high, we would be able to support large amount of data, which is carried by the video. So video monitoring can happen at any time, and with the switch, we will be able to feed that control to the interoperability platform, so that they can take over and monitor what is going on, take complete control of the video camera over our wireless link, and control the situation. Similarly, we do work with emergency response teams around the world. We do provide the 4.4 and 4.9 gigahertz solution through and through. For example, our solutions are at present working in Canadian North. We did provide solutions to NAV Canada and also to Vancouver Olympics and other police, RCMP, and various other agencies around the world. So I just wanted to close it with time for questions. I guess we have about 4 or 5 minutes here. And if you have any concerns, we are there available afterwards to answer your question.
We're in the back left corner, exactly
right
opposite,
there.
Diagonally opposite to here.
And we can even provide you with a handful of jelly beans.
Any questions? No?
Sandra, you have a question?
No.
She's convinced she's going to buy it.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for attending. We really appreciate your time.